here to be part of a collaborative network, and I wish to give you what I have to offer the table when it comes to my experiences in teaching, my failures, my successes, and the content that Kindred mentors will primarily focus on would be academic related, educational management related, coaching, and instructional guidance, especially for specific needs of learners when it comes to the cognitive domain, the social, and the emotional domains as well. So please follow my Facebook page, our YouTube channel as well. I'm on Instagram, and please watch out for our Tumblr page as well. But we have a website wherein it's primarily made for Kindred Spirits, but I'm going to have that as well merged with Kindred Mentors, specifically a tab for everything education. Okay, so you'll get to know me more when I do a live on Facebook as well in our page. So please do like, share, and follow us in our social media platforms, and shoot us a message if you have any inquiries about certain classes or sessions, et cetera, although I'll be posting on our Kindred Mentors page on Facebook the rates and the services that we offer. And in our YouTube channel, we also will offer the same services that we have described in our Facebook page. So please stay tuned and stay in the loop, because here at Kindred Mentors, we go for lessons that matter and understanding that endures. So let's begin with our first slide. As you can see here in the orientation, this is really, like what I said earlier, catered to teachers. Okay, I am a teacher by heart, and I think there is no other profession that I find myself in. I've tried different desk jobs, office jobs, a 9-to-5 job. I've done virtual chat client support for different companies over my career. But I always find myself coming back to the educational domain. I think this is part of my calling. So for the teachers out there, doesn't matter what country you're from, what nationality you're from, what religion you belong to, Kindred Mentors would want to reach out and share in the spirit of collaboration, knowledge, learning, and experiences. So the first slide would be the title of your Welcome Back to School orientation. Okay, so here in the Philippines, yes, I'm Filipino, and I am based in Central Visayas. Okay, so the first slide will have to be the title of your orientation template. So for example, you have a grade 7 class, let's say. Okay, so you just put grade 7 level orientation, and then you can put the logo of your school somewhere. Okay, probably here above. It's up to you. You can modify this. Again, these are all just examples. And then we have the school year, and then the date, and then the time when the orientation happens. Now, the reason this is my first recording is it's very timely to make a recording on going back to school, because in the Philippines, I think it's set to happen in September, first day of classes. So that's like the first week of September. Some private schools might move their classes a bit later, but if you're in a public school, they all follow the same time frame, right? So now see here, it's very important that I would suggest that your slides are not so like bright colored. Okay, think of the different pairs of eyes that you're going to that's going to view your template. The parents are probably going to be there, and they're just not going to put on their camera. So you have to assume that the first slide, all of your slides, will be enough to draw attention, but at the same time not painful to look at because of all those neon hot colors, right? So this is just an example. And then the font size, make sure that it's not too large, just enough that it's centered. Okay. All right. So catch their attention by first giving a greeting and then flashing this to them. Suppose that you want to show your face on the camera, so it's going to show here on the side. Later, I'm using Zoom. And I think most, if not all, across the globe use Zoom for their main platform of teaching. But I know there are a lot of other similar platforms that serve this, offer the same services. Okay, so you want to start with the second slide as the outline. Today's program, it's just an example, 3 bullet points: introduction of all homeroom and subject teachers, general reminders during online classes, work submission on, well, we used ManageBack at that time. So it's really a sophisticated software. It's a learning management system from IB, okay? We're going to talk about the subjects that I teach later on in other recordings, but this is just, ManageBack is just another LMS platform for learning. So it organizes everything that you need to, especially if you cater to an entire K-12 grade level, right? But it's more suited for, I would say, middle and high school. For kids, we used Google Classroom, and it's really very helpful for their age range. Okay, so you want to start with the second slide with a few bullet points. This came out after we had a meeting. So there generally has to be a meeting with the staff and the principal, for example, and other teachers. So you know what to give your in your orientation, and you can actually plan it, right? So that's just an example. Okay, I used to teach grade 7. So here we go. Welcome to grade 7, or you can have your tagline there to catch your attention. For me, it's just, I'm a classic welcome everyone kind of teacher. So it's just that, very simple. Okay, and then I introduce my first question for reflection. Okay, it's very important to understand that when you're a speaker or when you present something, it doesn't matter how long it is or how short it is, but the very first time you flash the slide and you show your entries or your bullet points, especially on the first day of class, it's also like making a first impression as well. So it's important to hold or sustain the attention of your audience, okay, by giving them something to ponder on. Okay, so in my case, it was 2020 when the COVID happened. So I immediately put into perspective the context of how to start this presentation. So I said, what is the current situation? COVID-19 is reality, full stop. Make sure, or you might want to make sure that it's not so lengthy, and then you just explain it later on briefly so that people will not have that feeling of, okay, so COVID-19 is a reality, and then there's no hanging feeling, right? So there we go. Explain it. And that is your just 1 minute, just a 1 minute introduction, right? Next, another question to ponder in connection to the first one. I would say, for example, what is a remedy to bridge the learning gap, in quotation marks, double quotation marks, created by the pandemic? So whatever your school's name is, then I'm pretty sure you're using an e-learning platform. You can mention that. It's just like, this is a problem. This is a reality right now, COVID-19. We can't go out anytime soon, right? But how are we going to continue learning without compromising? But I know it will really compromise a lot of skills, but without compromising at least the macro skills that we want to teach a child. So bridging the gap. Then you can mention your school's e-learning platform, Google Classroom, etc., etc. And that is also already promoting, in a way, okay, your school and the solid fortress it has to battle the times needed to bridge the gap for their child's education, right? Okay, so we have that. Oops, sorry. Okay, and then I would insert an infographic or just a simple image diagram. Okay, now this one needs a little bit of analogy. Okay, if you're the kind of person who's kind of like spontaneous and you can immediately bullet your points and explain the image without you having to have a lot of notes in your PowerPoint presentation, then that would really be good as well. And it's more spontaneous. If you're more spontaneous, you tend to at one point hold or sustain the attention of your audience, right? So this is just an example. It's my fourth slide. What are the common roadblocks to e-learning? So remember, here is our first two questions to reflect on. Pause, don't speed it up, okay? You more or less know already the timing that you should explain each slide as well. So, okay, after talking about bridging the gap, remind them, or maybe they already know this. Maybe some are new into this still. Maybe other parents or students or administrative levels would also want to hear or refresh themselves with the roadblocks that they had to endure on the onset of COVID-19 and are probably or will still be enduring, okay, throughout the next school year. Okay, so this is just an example. You can find a lot, just research, and you can just maybe snip it, okay, and then post it. Make sure that also you do include the source, okay, if it's something that says copyrighted, so you can have the source right there, and you can always mention it later, care of or courtesy of, right? So, or sourced from. In this slide, I have this particular image. What are the common causes? I wanted to talk about the roadblocks to e-learning because I felt and I knew from some parents that their concern was rising, okay? Because everybody was new to the virtual learning scenario. You want to you want to calm them. You want to assure them that no one will be left behind because you understand that this kind of learning is not easy peasy, that this is something that you need to hurdle with your students, okay? And that you are aware, you're aware of the roadblocks that it presents, the challenges that it presents. So it's worth mentioning that, because it not just refreshes the memory of everybody watching it and will be involved in it, but it's also affirming to everyone that you're in this together, okay? Which brings me to the importance of the lines or connection in this graphic. So this is the time when you can talk about collaborative effort, okay? This is the time when you can inject a bit more about continuity of learning, not just after a virtual class, but at home. So this is now when you will use the picture. So what are the common causes of roadblocks to e-learning? Now, support system, especially at home. Okay, maybe not all parents are able to provide the time to help their child because both are working. It doesn't matter if it's work from home or they go to commute to work or they go to work physically every day. It's just making or finding time to be with a child is a roadblock for a lot of parents. Or some parents, okay, might find that, especially I guess for higher year levels, right? The lessons, especially and for those who are in more advanced curriculum schools, that some parents might not be able to immediately provide help or support to their kids, right? Hence tutorials. So there are a lot of roadblocks that affect how the child will be supported throughout the virtual learning experience. And then you go to the online system, okay? So what are the roadblocks that you had experienced or you think you will be experiencing when it comes to the online connectivity, okay, the network stability, the speed, okay, of submission and uploading and submission of entries, especially when the teacher designates a time for it? What if there's a sudden blackout or power outage? Okay, how are you going to make up for it? So technical difficulties are always present when it comes to online learning, right? So that is a roadblock. And then you go here below, learning journey. Is it going to be a worthwhile journey for the child still? Is it not going to compromise the skills that the child ought to learn? Okay. And then you go to content. Okay, so content for educators out there, we know that we need to build content, develop that, and bank on content, whether it's research and then develop that research and existing content that we want to use to enrich, okay, our present lessons. Content, how will content be affected here upon in the delivery of it, of the or how will content be affected once it's delivered through a virtual classroom? The challenge for people who are not so techy, for example, or for those teachers who are accustomed to the traditional classroom setting, that it's difficult for them to adapt or to adjust immediately. How are we going to address that? Because that is definitely a major roadblock, right? So a lot of the teachers were trained, I'm sure, during even pre-COVID times. I'm sure one way or another, we already learned virtual strategies to teach, right, for a certain generation type. But okay, we don't want to be stereotypical, but we cannot avoid the fact that there are senior teachers who might not anymore have the time or the patience to get into the nitty-gritty of technological advancements in education and maximize it to their advantage. So how are we going to include them or train them or make them be more hands-on when it comes to learning this online LMS, learning management system, okay, so that their content is still teachable. It's still the content is still able to be broken down into learning blocks. Because like it or not, traditional school classroom setting is way different from what we had been experiencing in the virtual classroom. But would you believe, kindreds, that you can still attain, okay, the same goals that you would like with your virtual classroom, in your virtual classroom with your students, without having to worry about your strategy. But the thing there is, you need to be more hands-on into the websites, apps, programs that will enable you to deliver your lesson just like how you do or how you did in a physical classroom setting. Now, I'm going to be talking more about that as our sessions progress and as I upload more videos for our mentors. Okay, so there. And then you have at the center the strategy. How are you going to address each of these roadblocks? Correct? How are you going to make sure that even with all of the challenges that these loopholes, okay, challenge you with, how are you going to strategize? What's your game plan? Okay, and your game plan better be really good and effective so that it doesn't just become a robotic, okay, 25, 30, 45-minute session with manuals with, no offense, of course, I'm sorry for those who use manuals. I mean, it's not just something that a student sits on and after a couple of minutes, 45 minutes, oh, it's time, next class, and then you're going to sit again and keep on writing, scribbling on manuals without actual learning happening, because you lose the engagement. For some reason, you lose your audience, you lose the child, because there is no, strategy involved in addressing each of these roadblocks. So then you talk about the image behind. This is now when we're going to be talking about a little analogy. What does the picture show you? And how does it connect to the infographic? Okay, so you say, well, just like this image right here, there's a car stuck in the middle of nowhere, and then there's a lot of sheep, right? So the sheep becomes a roadblock. You can't move forward. You can't move on and go to your destination, right? Just like in a classroom setting, challenged with virtual learning, how are you going to make sure that you slowly but surely get through all the roadblocks and move on past them without hurting the sheep. That's another thing there. Without hurting, without killing any of these gentle sheep. Like, patience that you might need to put into your lessons should probably be multiplied by 3 to 4, so that you're assured that the sheep right there in the image just, separates seamlessly, and then you can all go your merry way. Right? There we go. So you can do something like this, kindreds, okay? But just make sure that it's also understandable both to you and the kids, your audience as well. So this is pretty much black and white. You can also talk about the color. I didn't really notice the color until now. Okay, black and white, plain and simple. How are you going to deal with the roadblocks, right? Okay. So another slide that mentions something about the magic formula. Well, just to keep a little, or give everything, give the slides a twist. A little something like this is not so bad. You may think of a GIF, a GIF, if you want something moving or animated. You can include that as well. But for me, it's just this one. What is the magic formula? Okay. Well, this slide now will be up to how you address it. Your magic formula might have come up on your own. You might have your own magic formula or your teaching strategy, right, mentors? Or you have collaborated with your team of teachers and you already know what works. Or the entire school, rest assured, already knows how to address the sheep, how to address these roadblocks. And that's good news, right? So explain now in brief your bullet points. So this is just an example. Again, you can take from this, and I'm sure you already have your notes even before. So these are just examples. What we know works now, because we know, mentors, this is a trial and error thing. When we teach something, we are not really guaranteed that 100% of that lesson will be absorbed by the child, but you would be happy to know that if there's one soul there who got you, or there's a few souls there listening to you who understands what you had to teach for that day, and then talks about it at home, probably keeps on thinking about it, wondering about it. That is your badge of honor for the day. But you're never going to know who among them on a daily basis. Okay, and we don't have to concern ourselves with that. We need to concern ourselves with how we're going to cater to the child and empathize with them and put ourselves in their shoes so that we can understand how to best deliver our lesson without us struggling every day, without us trying to get their attention with all of our antics, okay, and losing precious time to actually talk about the lesson. And has that happened already? Yes, a lot of times. And I have some, horror stories that students or parents, before shared to me, of course, with anonymity, right? Because there's no time management as well. Okay, so these are just examples. How do we address it? Okay, address individual needs. I'm going to be talking about differentiation as well in my channel, so watch out for that. Providing clear guidance and assessments, yes. Okay, rubrics, let's have more examples of that and how they work actually. I'm going to be featuring that also in my channel. And then creating eye-catching layout, virtual or digital art. Okay, simple user experience, especially for certain interfaces, or like in Google Classroom, there's a lot of the interface there is very understandable, it's very direct to the point. So let's say if you want to introduce a certain website or a certain app that you want the kids to download, how user-friendly is it? Okay, there. Social, interactive, and mobile. Okay, so how are you going to maximize their phones, their tablet, their internet in general, for you to impart as much as you can, whether it's homework, tasks, seat work, homework, in general, class tasks, right? And then connecting learners to resources. Okay, so now that we're doing the virtual classroom, learning, how are you going to make that PDF, that PPT, that Microsoft Word document work for them? Okay, now that you're not there to physically coach them or guide them, how are you going to make the time, or how are you going to establish or bridge again that gap using the monitor as your gateway to them, using the resources available to you online for them, for you, okay, and then use it to your advantage, okay? And then I have here a note, focus on the why. So remember this right here, why? Why do we have roadblocks? Why do we have all these real roadblocks in learning? Okay, it would be nice if you can give your personal answer to that. But the reason why I put focus on the why is there are a lot of ways in how to diversify the why question here. Like, why do we need to address all of the roadblocks, right? That's an example. Why do we need to address each of these bulleted entries? Why do we need to connect learners to resources? Why do we need to use social, interactive, and mobile media to maximize learning? Why do we put our stress on addressing individual needs? Why do we need to provide clear guidance? Now, giving that question back to the students and parents, because they're going to be watching, right, makes them also confirm, or they will understand, they would be able to understand, okay, the importance that you put to virtual learning by targeting each of these needs, right? So it's always the why. It's like saying quality versus quantity. Are you going to count the number of tasks you're able to accomplish in a day, or are you going to qualify the skills that you were able to develop in that lesson for that day? Okay, just some thoughts. Again, your recommendations, suggestions, reactions are welcome in our YouTube channel. Please do type and let me know your ideas and thoughts about this, because again, I'm just sharing to you based on my experience in teaching as a teacher and my recent involvement in different academic settings overseas. Okay, so I decided to include basically the magic formula, and I wanted to expand it more, but divided it into 3 main categories. So it's like human to human, and then learning platform, and then content. So again, like an infographic that makes everybody understand, or understand the summary of what you just said. Okay, understanding that this is just a visual aid, correct? And as a visual aid, you as a speaker, you still have the power to make an impact during that orientation presentation based off of your visuals, right? But the one who delivers it, the spoken word coming off of that, of the visual aid, is even more important. Okay, the impact that you make is not based on the visual aid. It's just a tool for you to do so. You, the speaker, will have to make it, will have to speak volumes about it, right? Okay, so these are just examples. Basically, I just kind of like expanded this one, right? So all of these entries, you try to categorize them into human to human, interaction, learning platform, and content. So there we go. And then you can just breeze through this probably if you wish. And my favorite first day orientation part would be the netiquette guide. I made sure to insert this in my presentation. I'll just give you a very brief run through of this, and you can always modify and change it, you know. So my netiquette guide, and this is very good to set the tone of the class on a daily basis, right? So the first one, and I highlight, yes, I do highlight in red, okay, very important key phrases. So that that way the child already immediately remembers, okay, bullet 1, 2, and 3. So first is online classroom is in fact a classroom. It's still a classroom. Emphasize that. The mode of delivering lessons just changed, but it's still class it's still a classroom. Okay, certain behaviors are expected when you communicate. Okay, there we go. And then introduce to them the word probably etiquette, from the word etiquette. So communication. So respect, politeness should not be dropped. It should still be there. Treat your instructor and classmates with respect during online conversation, email, message boards, or any other communication, right? Make sure that they don't make a chat wall off of your official page, school page, right? And always address teachers and their classmates properly, politely. And then security. Now this one, no sharing of passwords. Okay, everybody should be reminded. I think not just the kids, parents alike, because they're going to be doing this with their child as well. And then even admin and teachers alike, we tend to sometimes forget our password. So it's always good to write it down or copy paste it. Okay, maybe copy paste it on Notepad or post it or stick it. Right, it's more accurate than writing it down, because it's more bound for the kids to make. They're more bound to make mistakes when they write it manually on their notebook. So just make sure that you remember your password, because it's going to be another headache for the teacher if he or she has to figure out the password of the kid, okay, for a certain class account or something. I had a couple of that in my early years, but I taught them how to make sure when we sign up for a certain platform, you already copy paste your password, okay, and then write it down if you want as a backup. Okay, and do not share it with anyone. Okay, pranking, bullying online is not allowed. Change your password if you think someone else might know it. Okay, always log out when you're finished using the system. Okay, so okay, it's all rules from until this slide. So there were 3 major rules that we wanted to stress out on attendance. So let me just bring you back here. Okay, so again, this is still about Netiquette Guide, this slide, but when you reach this slide here, it's already more specific to the school's policy and guideline book. Okay, so our attendance, so it depends on the policy you have in your existing school. So attendance and lateness will be recorded for it will be recorded for every live session. Parents will be notified of its attendance. Please be punctual in attending the live sessions, and inform your homeroom and or subject teacher in case you're not able to join the live session. Okay, so punctuality, notification, tardiness is not condoned. And then here, it's important to communicate, okay? If there's any foreseen absence, or if there's any absence due to sickness, what you want to stress out here is the child informs, or the parent of the child informs. Otherwise, you would have to mark them as absent. Okay, so B is just a reiteration of the previous slide. Yes, during the live session. Okay, so be punctual. Again, I highlight the important key phrases or keywords. Log in on time, use your real name for your official Zoom ID, always turn on your camera during live sessions, mute your microphone during the lesson unless you have a question to ask. Now this one, I'm very particular with the background sound of my child's, surroundings, because there can easily be technical feedback, and then you lose attention for that particular time. So make sure that when you admit them in class, okay, they're all muted, or you can just look for that button there in Zoom where it says you don't grant them to unmute themselves. But normally I don't do that. I actually let them unmute on their own, because anyway, I have their attention for the full 35 minutes. But just in case, you want to make sure, remind them that their microphone should be muted. Okay, so students, yeah, we do not allow our students to use virtual background. For the background, if you have kids asking you what could be a good background is, I have a very messy room, etc., etc. Oh, just a plain cloth, probably, if you can put it as a backdrop, or just go to a plain part of your house where there's a plain background, or just a one color background. But really, this is the house, it's the house. So you don't have to be very specific about or meticulous about, okay, the the aesthetics of the background, as long as you don't use virtual background. And prepare all the materials needed for or beforehand. Okay, there we go. So I'm sure that a lot of the schools, public or otherwise, or private, instruct that their child, or the student rather, wears their school uniform during live sessions. Okay, pay attention, focus on the lesson, and do not play music or videos to avoid distraction during your live session. Observe proper netiquette. Okay, and then the last one, student board annotations will be disabled during live sessions. This is about the Zoom feature wherein kids are able to draw, okay, on the slide. Some kids, yeah, I do have a couple of kids who were naughty at that time and they just scribbled over while somebody was delivering or reporting something, or even when I was discussing something, but just very rarely did that happen. So that's rude, and that's going against netiquette, school netiquette. So I already tell them during orientation, if that happens, you're going to have a warning. And then when that happens again, I'm going to have to remove you from the class, and you have to mean it. And then you can always show this to them again. Remember this presentation, day 1 of our orientation, this is part of what I told you. You cannot scribble on a screen when somebody's talking. How rude and impolite is that? Okay, there. So, and you're not allowed to eat during the live sessions. Yes, okay. It's so easy to fall into that because, well, we can't really blame the kids if they're home, but that's why we have all of these rules, policies, at least to make everything standard. So definitely no eating and munching while learning. This is not a movie. This is not, Netflix or something for your entertainment. So again, netiquette. There we go. So this one is submission of homework. With this one, Kindreds, it's more of the specific policy of the school. It's probably just general. Okay, I'll show you the slide anyway. So when it comes to submission of homework, although I'm going to be giving another video that discusses the weight of homework to the actual skill, or how it contributes to the skill of the child during the virtual learning process. Okay, or how much homework do you think should be given to the child? Is it needed at all, et cetera, et cetera. So this is just more of the standardized rule that we had when it comes to submission of homework. The due dates, okay, for submission will be given by the teacher. Students must submit required work time. If there are problems in uploading the file, again, technical glitches as a roadblock, then we should be informed. Okay, or they will be marked as non-compliant. Okay, so, or no submission of homework. There we go. And for us, we of course understand the current situation that certain quote unquote due dates might not be met because of, well, the roadblocks that we mentioned earlier. So if any problem arises, again, communication is key. If there are any unavoidable circumstances that arose, or hindered them from submitting work, then again, information is key. Okay, inform the teacher concerned, and an allowance of, well, it depends on you, also on the team, your level, right? How many days or how much time are you going to give for the child to submit or to comply? Okay, this one. Okay, if you want to be more stringent, you can also put here, failure to comply will receive a mark of 0. But we're going to be talking about this in another video also, what to say or how to say certain things that wouldn't be so probably, okay, hurtful to some kids, or how to say certain things in a very constructive way, okay? So this one, okay, can be optional, definitely. This one's remedial classes, but this is more specific to the needs of the child. I'm going to be making a different video on that, so I'm going to have to stop on homework submission. All right, so I hope everybody had something to take away from our first video here on Kindred Mentors. Please make sure to let me know your thoughts. You can go to our YouTube channel. Please like, follow, and share our page on Facebook, and follow and subscribe or like our videos here in Kindred Mentors. Okay. Again, I will be making more videos on educational management, life coaching, instructional guidance, and general tips on how parents and teachers can maximize the working relationship they have so that the child will benefit from both worlds. Thank you very much, Kindreds, and I will see you when I see you soon. Please stay tuned for our next video. Stay in the loop here at Kindred Mentors, where we teach lessons that matter and understanding that endures. Goodbye, everyone.